to the next generation of our favorites.
Our favorites.
Took you for a curve there. Yes, this is the new generation of our favorites. And in case you missed last week's episode, what we are doing, each of us gave 10 all-time classic perfecto movies, and we are going to work through each of our top 10s. We're on my top 10, and we're on to number 9 pick for moi. And I am personally a massive fan of horror movies. I love getting scared the crap out of. So what better pick for number 9 than the granddaddy of all the horror, The Shining.
The miniseries from the 90s.
Absolutely not. Which I've actually never seen. But I would be...
I've seen clips of it.
I would be curious to see how that holds up to the actual movie.
Didn't you say that was like...
Stephen King was heavily involved.
Yes.
His answer to...
Yeah, and you know how The Shining, and I watched a great video on it by Super Eye Patch Wolf. You know how The Shining, they look like normal people?
Yes.
The miniseries, they make them look more Hollywood-esque, so it's like everyone in the movie is horny, basically.
That's lovely.
Like that kind of thing, where then this one's like, these look like, it look and act more like real people.
Actual, straight-up real people.
Yeah, and the CG on the hedge animals that move, because that is in the book, apparently. I've never read the book, but I know they look really funny.
Oh, God. I didn't know there were... You know, that's one thing as much as I love this movie, and I think the reason why I like it is because Kubrick brought more than just what the book is, which is obviously why...
I don't know if he brought more than what the book is. I think he cut out a lot of stuff from the book that he didn't like. He kind of just used the book as a jumping board from what people tell me. Mm-hmm. That's not me complaining. I don't have a reason to complain. I've never read the book.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting, and I'm speaking from someone who has not read the book, but I just wonder how more, because similar to some of his other movies, I think 2001 specifically, he likes his a little more open-ended, a little more open to interpretation kind of stuff, and I'm just very curious as to how direct that is from the pages, or if that's more just a Kubrick thing, and he just kind of brought it to the source
I think it's just a Kubrick thing. The movie definitely has a Kubrick tone to it.
Yeah.
So I think it's more just a Kubrick thing, especially since Stephen King's books are very rarely as subtle as what this movie is, and it's weird to say that this movie is subtle, but comparatively it is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Have you read the book, Jake?
Not in a long time.
Okay. Just wondering.
I went through a big Stephen King phase, and
Man's he's a talented writer, but he's got some weird stuff.
I like reading his stuff about writing better than I do
his stuff.
I feel like that makes sense.
Like his book on writing is honestly one of my favorite. I don't want to call it a textbook, but like method books.
Interesting.
Ever.
That's really interesting. I will say I saw kind of diverting on the Stephen King lane a little bit. I did see an interview with him, and good Lord knows how long ago this was, or with who, I don't remember. It was just a clip on YouTube. But he's like, yeah, I don't really remember much of the 70s and 80s. I just remember writing a lot. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like about right from what I hear about your book, so it makes sense as to where this story comes from.
If like stuff's moving around and things are differently shaped, that would make a bit more sense with the context of what looms over the hotel. So
that does make sense. And I also really quickly want to mention, because first off, when I watched I think I watched this 2 weekends ago. I was on a Shining kick, so I watched this. I watched Doctor Sleep.
Isn't Doctor Sleep weird, but like
it's
gripping too? Like
it's good, but it's like
you're a Flanagan.
I'm a Flana friend.
Flana friend.
I love my
Flanistan.
I like that better.
I was engrossed with that movie, just trying to figure out what was going on.
Like it's
and at the end, I think I like it, but I don't know that I'll watch it again.
And I don't want this to be about Doctor Sleep, but I just think watching The Shining and then watching that back to back, it's a very interesting experience, because you can tell that he has admiration and he liked the movie The Shining, but when he made Dr. Sleep, it felt like one of his movies with like a little bit of Kubrick like Shining. It's so weird, and if you haven't seen Dr. Sleep, please go watch it, and if you have seen it, rewatch it again after The Shining, because I think those two pair together, as Jared was showing off, is nice little Blu-ray.
I'm trying not. I know there's gonna be a nasty reflection on it, so.
But yeah, those two pair together is such an interesting experience. Which also leads me to, I love this movie, and I think like the reason why I think it's interesting is because it is open to interpretation. You can get a lot of different messages from it. But have you guys ever seen the documentary Room 237?
Yeah, it stinks.
No.
What the heck?
I have not.
It's literal.
It's about 30% interesting, where they bring up things. It's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, because like about how it's built on Native American burial grounds.
Yes.
They mention it in the movie and how there's a lot of like imagery on like the product placement of like Native American, like the chief heads that they use.
Yes.
And then the other 2/3 of it or more is like how Kubrick faked the moon landing by look at the panels on the carpet. And how about room 237? The key.
Oh yeah,
the key
that's right.
says room, and what is it like?
That's right.
The OOM is also in moon. The moon room.
Like,
they say that. Oh gosh, the kid's name Tommy, right?
Danny.
Danny.
Yeah.
You keep saying Tommy.
I keep saying Tommy. Why do I keep saying Tommy?
No, you guys
looks like Tommy.
you just remember Danny.
Yeah.
Which the actor's name is Danny too.
But anyway,
so.
they keep saying. I remember reading about everybody saying that there was a significance in the sweater that he wears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
about the moon that correlates to the moon landing.
And
It's
one of the set
ridiculous.
dressers or someone that worked on the film in an interview within the documentary says it's just a stupid sweater. They just said get a sweater, so we got a stupid sweater.
That's what I love, and I know we are literally on a podcast, like, analyzing and talking about movies, but, like, Room 237, like, for the Shining, they went so over the top, and so, like, there's a specific scene where, who is the, fellow who's interviewing, him about the job? Like the original, like, I don't know if he's, like, the manager.
Oh, what is his name? I gotta hover over.
But you know what I'm talking about,
Mr.
right?
Ullman.
Yeah. So the shot that, in the documentary they bring up, is when he walks, and do you remember this, Jared? When he walks in front of the desk, the way that he is standing makes it look like he literally has a hard-on for Jack. And it's so, I'm like, who thinks of this? Who goes in, like, I really love this movie, and I like that it's open to interpretation, but calm down.
We say that, but then Stanley Kubrick, I mean, they know that he hides things in there, like, The car crashed on the side of the road at the beginning of the movie.
It's not at the beginning.
It's at the end.
It's in the middle. It's when what is his name? It's when Dick is driving back to the hotel, and remember he's driving around the crash scene, and the car from the book, because it's the same color and type, is crushed underneath the semi.
Huh. I didn't notice. I didn't know
And that is his middle finger to Stephen King.
Yep, that sounds about right.
So I can see where people would get there, like I can see the path they took. I still think it's ridiculous. Don't hear me wrong. I still think it's ridiculous.
It's just so ridiculous. It is ridiculous. That's the best word to use.
There are some though, like I can't remember them all. Clues as if to that one or both of Danny's parents are sexually abusing him.
Yes.
One that stuck out to me because I'm watching this, and there's a scene where Wendy and Danny are watching a movie. Mm-hmm. And it's Summer of 42. I've seen it. And this time I'm like, why are they watching Summer of 42? That's not appropriate.
It's interesting.
Do you know what Summer of 42 is about?
I do not.
No.
It is autobiographical for the writer, where I think it was during World War II, he became friends with this woman whose husband was in the war and ended up dying, and they slept together. He was like 15.
Oh.
And she was like 20-something. So it's already uncomfortable to think about. Because to him, it's like this, and then she was gone. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, Kubrick put that in there for a reason, because that's such a random movie to have in there, and there is this weird parallel of when she says, you want to stay for lunch in the movie, and then right afterwards, Wendy says, come right back, I'm going to make lunch. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, for people who make the claims that there might be things going on, it's like, yeah, I guess you could call it that. And there's probably more clues, but that's like the big one of like, why would Kubrick specifically put Summer of 42 on the TV?
That's very interesting. I did not know that tidbit.
Yeah.
The other thing that you hear people talk about a lot, so this is only the second time I've watched The Shining. Mm-hmm. The first was it last year or the year before?
The first time you watched it was like 2016 or 17.
No.
Yep.
No, I was in my house.
Yeah.
It's 17. No.
It was pre-COVID.
18 then.
Somewhere in there, because you borrowed it from me.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize it was that long ago. I was thinking more like 2020. But regardless, the second time I've watched it, and the first time I watched it, I was really fascinated by it. Mm-hmm. I watched a bunch of videos. I don't remember exactly what they're said, but there's some kind of correlation between Tommy's sexual abuse or something like that, or Jack's sexual abuse and like bears.
Interesting.
Because every time
I know, because like there was that one really weird cut scene when
with the bear,
Shelley is running through Shelley Duvall.
The guy in the bear costume.
Yeah,
but
that has something to do with something in the book that they just didn't explain in the movie.
I kind of remember
like one of the old hotel owners had like a secret gay lifestyle or something like that. And the movie just throws it in there instead of explaining it.
It's just meant to be twisted as a weird thing.
Yeah. There's more to it. It's just the movie doesn't explain it.
And then there was something about there's always bears around Danny. I said it right this time.
Danny.
I will say, I think this is. I've seen a lot of movies with Jack Nicholson, obviously, but this is the one that I like consistently think of when I just his like extravagance that he brings to roles.
Oh, the scene where that's the other thing. When Danny goes to get his fire truck right after the Summer 42,
yes,
and he like sits on Jack's lap, and it's the most uncomfortable moment. And he's like talking, you know, I love you very much, and I would never do anything to hurt you. I'm like, because Jack's already going insane.
Yeah, it's so.
He does kind of go crazy really quick.
Yeah, on this time around,
it's like a month later, and then there's one day, and then like on like the second day, it's like boom. It's because it's that shot of him staring out the window, all creepy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So, this time I watched it. I will say that I appreciate this movie. I don't really like it, again because it's horror, and I'm just not. But I appreciate its significance. Especially this time. I made the mistake of letting my wife watch it with me. And it taught me why they use this to teach horror.
Yeah.
Because my wife is like freaking out. And we are not even to the point where Danny has seen the twins in the hallway yet.
Oh my God.
We're like, it's like the scene right before it, or a couple right before it, where it's just a tracking shot of Wendy and Danny running, and they're just running, and it's like this music is behind it. You're like, something's gonna happen, and nothing happens. And it showed me that what this movie implies to you is more important than what it shows you, because what it shows you is not really that scary when you look at it. If there was no sound and you just looked at it, the scariest thing would probably be those girls with the axe in the hallway and the blood all over.
Yep. I'm so glad you said that, because I wrote and I want to listen. Obviously, this movie would not have been as good if Stanley Kubrick wasn't behind the helm. Obviously, the man's very talented, but the music, that sound is unreal. Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind are the people who created the score for this, and they deserve so much credit, because the high strings, just everything about that, it's anxiety-inducing, and it's right. This is how you do horror. I was talking about Mike Flanagan before, like, and how like I think he takes a lot of his influence from Stanley Kubrick, because he's good at creating tension and just an atmosphere, and that's what The Shining does to me. Like every minute, every second that you're watching this movie, it just gives you anxiety.
Well, and the other fun game I was kind of doing, because it's a horror movie, so to avoid getting really invested and getting really freaked out, I kind of make fun of it as I go.
That's a good way to do it.
With my wife, I was like, oh, hey, look, there's one of the most iconic scenes in cinema. Oh, hey, look, there's one of the most iconic scenes in cinema. Oh, hey, look, and it started to pile in my head, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is really good.
It's hard to watch it after you've watched YouTube edits where they edit it like a sitcom.
I know what you're talking
It's
about.
like, it starts with, Wendy, I'm home. Gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in.
Bash him right the fuck in. Like, oh, it just.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
I love Jack Nicholson in this so much.
And of course, the infamous production on this where he drove them nuts, specifically Shelley Duvall.
Do you want to know what one of the first things that I wrote in my little? I have like a quick little thing on here. So. If you watched our last movie, I'm going to do a little backstory to this. If you watched my last pick, Knives Out, I said you can tell that everyone was having fun on set because it gave that vibe of such a good time. For The Shining, I think this is why it's so anxiety ridden. You can feel like everyone's walking on hairs on set, and I think that. Walking on hairs.
I've never heard that.
That's not the right.
It's walking on eggshells.
Walking on eggshells.
Or I'm walking on sunshine.
Whoa!
Yeah, this
Pins
is
and
the
needles.
opposite.
Is that another one?
What?
Is that another saying? Walking on pins and needles.
That's what I thought. Maybe I was just
walking on hairs.
I got it wrong.
It's
all right.
Stop
the one
walking
that I've
on those
heard.
Hairs so loud. But it's a barber shop.
What?
You're gonna slip.
But I was simply trying to say you can feel. You can tell, like, the stress that they went through to film things, and I think that
She does look like she literally went insane. Like she's got that scared look down.
What Kubrick did was he would film the same shots over and over into triple digits.
Like that's
because he wanted them to basically lose their mind. And from what they have said, like, they enjoyed it in their own weird way, but they would never do it again. It was exhausting. Because what he'd do is, like the first couple takes, often, you're starting to get there. Then you hit it. And then he keeps going because he slowly wants you to just become so just tired of the material that you're just not caring anymore. And you just start losing it. And that's why a lot of, like, the screaming and the weird way they say lines, it's just... It feels so real because at that point they're not really acting as much as they're just getting through it. They're just brain dead, and it's such an interesting way that's made. But it's also like that's pretty terrible.
It's so hard because I truly think that this is one of the. I mean, Kubrick is obviously talking about one of the best directors, but this is like one of the examples I really like. Just. The direction, and it's so hard to like prop it up too much when you know what happened on set. Like it's a fine line of trying to balance like this is a masterpiece, but also do not do what he did because you will never work with anybody ever again after you put them through those kind of circumstances. Like it's hard.
Where is this in his catalog?
Near the end, there's only 2 more movies after this.
Because
makes sense.
Yeah, literally. Like after everyone's like, "No, I'm done with working with him. He's a nut job."
That makes me think that for A Clockwork Orange, he actually strapped someone, and how would you put what he did there?
I mean, they actually had Malcolm McDowell's head submerged in that one scene, and he had I think Malcolm McDowell said he had like this little tube to breathe out of, and it would get plugged sometimes, and he almost did drown because he can't I think they had to get a towel for him to like tap them or something if something's wrong because he's submerged for like a minute. It's
Have you ever seen that, Dickey?
Oh yeah, Clockwork Orange is a good one.
Okay.
Yes, I've heard that's what everyone's. Clockwork Orange is a good one. It's a good one, I tell you.
I tried.
My favorite rom-com of your Clockwork Orange, a man and his violence.
I really want to see that edited as a sitcom.
that would be horrifying. Okay, I really...
Come and get one of the yobbles if you got any yobbles. Ah! And they just beat the crap out of these guys.
God, it's it's something. It's something. Okay, really quick. This is such a throwaway thing, but I felt like I wanted to write this down on my phone because it struck me as odd. Do you guys... It's such a small detail. Do you remember, okay, on the plane, remember when Dick is flying back, okay, and he's on the plane, my homie had his watch inverted on his... Like, he pulled off it, like... If you're watching us on YouTube, if not, tune into YouTube so you can see me do this. He pulled up his sleeve. His watch was facing this way, and he looked at it. Like, it was like on the inside of his wrist.
That's just...
Some people do that.
Yes, from my experience, there's quite a few people that actually do.
Really?
So you don't have to flip your hands around so much.
I have never met anyone, and I know it's such a stupid small detail I'm pointing out.
A lot of people don't do it because it limits your flexibility with your wrist, because you can't really move it very well.
Huh. I didn't think about that.
I don't wear watches, so I don't have... I think if I did have a preference, I would just wear it on the back side of my wrist.
Yeah.
But I did notice that, but I was like, oh, okay. And then I moved on.
I know it's a stupid detail.
On.
If it means something, it doesn't mean anything to any of us.
Just wanted to throw that out there. So another thing I want to mention about The Shining is... So wait, this came out in 80... Oh, just 80?
80.
It's 1980?
Mm-hmm.
So...
Doesn't feel like an 80s movie, thank the Lord.
It doesn't.
It's like a mid-70s movie.
Yeah.
It
feels like a good movie.
It does. Want to say something really interesting that I know... So... I'm trying to think of where I want to start. I think it's interesting because I don't know how many of his movies I pay attention to the aspect ratio, but I did for this one. And I think filming it in like the 16:9, the taller way, made those tracking shots so much more effective than they would have been if they just would have been standard widescreen. And I just wanted to mention, I think that's a really smart way of just getting more anxiety, because if you feel like it's enclosed and it's all
you know what I think made it most effective?
What's that?
It was done on a wheelchair, and not a very steady wheelchair.
Yeah.
That is true.
Not all of it, but there were some shots. I've seen footage of them just running with the Steadicam, but I heard they invented some kind of Steadicam to work for this. But I think the wheelchair thing is evident.
So one thing that I think kind of takes away from horror right now is everything is so smooth with camera movement, unless it's not. But this is like...
It's smooth until the scare happens, then we can't see anything because it's shaking everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes the imperfections are what
make
it more horrifying.
You're right. The shakiness of the camera, the unsteadiness, because it's not really shaky. It's just kind of... I don't know how to describe it.
You feel like you're really rolling down the hall. Like,
especially with how loud the big wheel sound is.
Yeah.
You really feel like you're just...
I always wanted one of those.
It was so bad. And you want to know what, especially the sound for the trike, that I'm thinking of is like when I think it was in the kitchen, when he would be rolling over rugs and then hard stone and then rug,
it's very...
I love it.
How do I say it? It's not flat sound, but it's natural sound.
It's like very monotone.
It's natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny though.
You're in.
There is a scene I could easily tell was dubbed, and not because it's not like it's synced up right. When they're driving to the hotel, like all three of them, and then that scene where they mentioned the Donner Party.
Yes.
I noticed something. The window's down. And their hair is blowing. I'm like, do you know how loud it would be in there? And they're talking, and there's no wind sound.
Of course.
And I go, oh my gosh. Like, that is really, really good dubbing. Because you can't tell it's dubbing until you realize the window is down.
That's a good point.
And you can see their hair moving. It's like, there's wind. And you ever put one window down in the car?
Oh,
it's loud.
Yeah.
But it was synced up pretty well.
Huh. I did not notice that.
Yeah.
Sorry. No,
I'm just thinking about with the kid's voice when he talks to Tony is creepy in the best way.
How
do you think they coached the kid to do that?
I don't know. Apparently, the kid didn't even know he was in a horror movie until years later.
I heard about that.
Because Kubrick was very protective of him because he didn't want him to be traumatized. So the kid said, I didn't even realize it was a horror movie till I was like 15
So
when he watched it.
How does he not...
I mean, he could just think it's a drama. It doesn't necessarily have to... Because I'm trying to think if he would ever be in any or near any of the shots where actually some of the more horrific things went down, and he really doesn't.
But, like... I might be misremembering.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me make sure. The whole red rum thing.
Yeah, the kid can't spell.
Okay, you got me there.
That's the kid, right?
Yep.
How would you not...
You got me there. You got me there. I don't know.
Unless they just told the kid, write red rum, write it like this, and then maybe he doesn't even know that's murder backwards.
I mean, that is a fair point. The kid's not old enough to really
process.
Put two and two together.
Yeah, I love those quick zooms. They use them perfectly, and it's like this. You see it, and then you just get closer to it.
You can tell
they do a lot of that in the 70s. I've noticed just certain 70s movies. It's like they get these new like zooms on these lenses. It's like we can zoom in a lot farther without moving. Not that they were new, like a lot of 70s movies do this, where it's like they just keep zooming in.
I really do wonder if maybe it is just new technology or a new like thing on the lens. It's like, hey, this is cool,
or something.
And then it's something new and something cool, so you want to use it.
Yeah, it's like it's not. I don't know. It's just.
You want to
Straw Dogs, I think the Dustin Hoffman original.
Yeah.
There are some shots at the beginning where it's like, why are we zooming in? Are we just zooming in because we can? That's fine, I guess. I'm just like, why are we? He's just taking a walk. Nothing's happened yet, and we're just zooming in for no reason. Okay.
I will say one of the best slow zooms in my opinion is I think it's the shot where Dick is just laying in his bed. And
that horrified face he makes is awful.
Oh my god!
Awful in the best way. Like it scares me.
I'm picturing it right now in my mind, and it's just giving me the heebie-jeebies. And that's why I love like. I think this is also a really like masterclass on editing, because like the bouncing back and forth between Danny entering that room, and then I think Jack also made some like facial expressions, or he was looking horrified as he was entering the room as well. And so it was cutting, I'm pretty sure I'm reading this correctly, it would be cutting back and forth between Danny, Jack, and then Dick, and just their expressions while seeing him enter the room. It gives you a hint that it's all connected, and it's just disturbing, and I like things that are disturbing.
Yeah, a lot of the scariness comes just from people's reaction in the movie. Like the whole room 237 scene is mostly played on what we're seeing, and then what just Jack's reaction to it. It's just cutting back and forth between that.
Yeah, it really is.
That lady.
The lady just creeping out of there, and especially like when like it was the shot in the mirror when he like saw what she actually looked like, and then and just backing out of there and just screaming. And
I think my favorite looking scene is the bathroom scene at the party when he's talking to Grady. I love how the red just pops off in the bathroom, and he's talking. Now they say a word that they probably shouldn't.
Yeah, that's a little bit of the time.
And it's funny because I said that after watching it with some people once, where I was like, probably shouldn't have said that, because then it's like it makes sense for Grady to say it, and then Jack says it right back, and it's like, and I go, well, that's of the time, meaning the 20s.
Yeah, literally.
And they're like, 1980. I'm like, great. I missed my window to jump in and say, no, I'm talking about the 20s. It's gone. Everything with going back in time. And then, of course, when Grady appears at the, like, that's another one of those ambiguities of how did he get out of the locked pantry.
That's a very, it
like,
is.
Are there actually ghosts?
And okay, I'm trying to remember, because I believe that's also when they were intercutting Danny. I'm going to try to explain his expression. You remember when he was just like really just going through, and he was like when he was like almost foaming at the mouth?
Yep.
I think that was about the same time in the movie when he got out of that locked room, because I know, at least I think it was room 237, or it could have been another just YouTube analytic video or whatever, that said they thought Danny was the one that actually unlocked it, and he did it like subliminally. And I think that would be interesting if they. Obviously, we're never going to get an actual answer, but I just think that's a very interesting theory.
Yeah, what was I going to say? I was going to talk about something with the... Oh, I lost it. What was it? There was something I was going to mention. Someone talk about something so I can think of this.
So I'm just trying to think of...
How about that carpet?
Yeah, the carpet.
Didn't it look like the panels on the lunar moonlander thing?
This is interesting. One of the ones that I wrote down is I didn't realize. So before watching it this year for this specific episode, it's been a while since I've seen this, and I didn't realize how much it is about. Like, it's also about alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because that's obviously what Jack is struggling through, and like him going to the bar and just like trying to like pretending to drink. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know how much of it is real and not real, but like it's just like that was such a twisted take on it, and I really.
There's a weird thing with the timeline of it too, because when Wendy is talking to the doctor back in Boulder, she mentions how when he grabbed Danny and hurt his arm, and she said, and he hasn't touched a drop since. It's been 5 months, and I go, okay. And then later he says, I didn't mean to hurt the little guy. You know, and then he says, and then he says that was 3 years ago, and I'm like,
yeah.
So how long has it been?
This movie is very good at making you unsure what is actually real and what is not.
Like especially that party scene. Like it's just creepy because you like obviously it's.
And then they revisit it in Dr. Sleep.
They did, I know.
That is such an interesting movie.
It is.
And they revisit this movie in Ready Player One.
That's right.
Dear God.
It's the only part of the movie I actually thought was fun.
I'll be really.
And
honest,
I will say, when one of the did you see it?
Never seen it.
One of them goes into room 237, and it's like what's in there, and they cut around any of the nudity because it's PG-13.
Right.
And it's really funny.
Oh my God.
The rest of the movie is.
Isn't the elevator doors in there too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember too much of it, but.
Yeah, because the guys are chasing them through, and the elevator door scene happens, and they like slip in the blood and everything.
Oh, that's weird.
I love that shot.
That is one of the ones that was on the list of, that's one of the most iconic scenes in cinema.
Apparently, it took them like 50 minutes to set up that shot.
And then Kubrick made them do it 300 times.
And I thought I read they only did it 3 times because it took so long to set up.
Well, how many gallons of just red
I
liquid do you think that is?
Which it was either 50 minutes or I thought it was weird. The thing I read, it said it took like 50 minutes to set up, but it took them basically a year to film it. So they filmed it and then had to clean up, then a while later did it again or something. So it's like, oh my gosh.
Because of how much of a pain the set was, I don't know. How long was the production for this? I feel like it would take
I was going to say it could potentially have been like a 1975 project.
Honestly.
And come out in 80.
Honestly. Like the amount of detail and the amount of like obviously the takes and just everything about the hell that was production. I'd be so curious to know how long it took them to make this. Or even especially in the editing room, can you imagine trying to figure out like how you want to pace it out? That would be honestly.
I can't imagine. I can't. I also can't imagine some kind of director's cut where he didn't have to cut anything he didn't want.
Oh my God!
Like that would probably be a 4 or 5 hour adventure.
Easily. I know Jared's trying to look it up really quick. So
also, and is kind of jumping ahead to where we're at. I remember the first time I watched it.
200 days. Almost 200 days of filming.
Wow. That is all.
According to Variety.
Okay. So
but then assistant editor Gordon Stainforth says it took nearly a year.
Yeah.
Just to film.
Yeah, he says it was supposed to be 17 weeks and it ultimately was 51.
Oh my God.
Continuous production, I think, but that's not even the longest Kubrick one. I think Eyes Wide Shut was like a year and a half straight of filming.
Wow.
But anyway, the thing that I laugh at the end that I don't know if I'm supposed to laugh at is the look on Jack's face when you find him brother just
kind of silly.
When he finds the what?
Huh.
When he finds
him frozen
when
in
when the camera
Oh.
finds him frozen.
Yeah. Just like, you're right, though.
His face when Wendy blames him for Danny having the marks on him from room 237 is so funny because he's just got this he just woke up from a nightmare.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
And he's just, what? I know people have memed it to death now.
Oh, yeah.
But it's such a great reation.
That's what I was just saying about him in this movie and him and just, I think in general, he's very extravagant. He's very reactive, and that's what makes him such a good actor. Okay, the last thing I do want to mention is going a little bit back to the score and the sound design. The constant heart beating is another thing that really drives you home, just all the anxiety. And I like the use of the heartbeat. I feel like it's not used quite often as it should be because it's a good...
I think it's used a lot. We've just are a little numb to it now.
That's fair.
I think it's gotten to the point where sound designers are starting to use other things as heartbeats.
Makes sense. Just like long heartbeats over long...
Well, think like
takes. It's just
like Dunkirk, the watch thing. It's
yeah.
not directly a heartbeat, but it is a thing that keeps time in the context of the film.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Funny enough, this movie had no Oscar nominations, of course, because it was
I'm
not received very well when it came out.
Shocker. Yeah.
It had 2 Razzie nominations.
Did it really?
For Worst Director and Worst Actress for Shelley Duvall.
That's
which she portrays one of the most authentic scared people ever. Like the screams when Jack's the "Here's Johnny" scene. Mm-hmm. It was getting to me this time. It's like
it just came from deep with it. Like it was horrifying.
I do like that thing I read about where because he's chopped through a door, the props team gave him a thinner door.
Really?
But because Jack Nicholson had been like a volunteer fireman or something, he chopped through it too quick.
Huh.
Or something.
That's so interesting.
And I still laugh at Wendy, I'm home.
I know. Well, and I love that he made he improvised the
Johnny.
Here's Johnny thing because of the
There was a continuity error I caught that I don't think I've ever caught before.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's just not a big deal. It's just so he chops that one panel out of the door, right, for the Here's Johnny.
Yep.
And then when he hears the Stocat with when Dick's coming back, and he turns his head and the door's behind him, the other panel is gone. Because remember, he backed away because she got him with the knife. Yeah. He didn't chop that side, so it was a different take where he chopped it out. I noticed. I was like, oh, I never noticed that before. Huh. Unless he did more chopping and that. But I don't think he did.
Speaking of continuity errors, though, I can't pick any out in particular right now. I'm once again kind of going back to the Room 237 documentary. They point out that there are intentional continuity errors put in this to throw off the audience, and that's a brilliant.
Do you have an example?
I can't think of
maybe
anything
that.
Else. It could have been that,
in a movie that's designed to make you question what reality is.
I know there's other things, and I really wish I could have an example off the top of my head, but I don't. I just remember them saying in that documentary that they would often switch things out, or one of it was it was one of the shots where Jack is at the typewriter and you see a chair in the background, just a random chair, and it cuts back to Wendy talking to him, then it cuts back to him, and that chair is gone. And that's one example I can think of, and it happened more and more that's a fun way to mess with your audience. I love that. If I was directing a horror movie, I would do that too.
Well, what about the last shot of the movie? That is not part of the book, I don't believe.
Really?
No, the last shot. What is the last shot? There's not continuity. I'm saying, how about that?
Why am I blanking on the literal last
The picture.
The photo.
Oh, the picture. Duh. Yeah, no, that probably is too.
Well, what do you think about it?
Because
if anything, it makes you ask more questions.
Are you asking me what I think it means?
Yeah.
I think it means that the hotel trapped him there. That he kind of became a piece of it.
So in
his insanity.
Do you remember how when he was taking that interview, he's like, I feel like I've had this job before, or I feel like I've been here before. I think it's
And Grady says something too, like, you've always been here. It's like, no, he's like, you're the caretaker. No, you're the caretaker.
Because I think
what do you say? you chopped your wife and kids to bits.
I wonder if he because like the way that Dick was explaining Shining to Danny, I think Jack was accidentally he wasn't aware that he was shining into Grady, and I kind of think that's how he lost himself in the hotel, if that makes sense. That's at least how I interpret it, because like when you get into like all the shining and like reaching out through like nothing there and like that kind of like shining into people, because they go more into that in Dr. Sleep, and they really don't touch on it that much in this, even though it's literally called The Shining.
It's
I think
funny.
That's how I think that's how I could be.
It's funny how watching Dr. Sleep, because of how they explain what The Shining is, reframes the entirety of the first movie.
It does, and that's why I'm so happy I watched these back to back, because it put it in a whole new light that I never thought of. Because like, while at least like the first time or the first couple times that you watch this, at least for me, I'm not really thinking about what the act of shining, like how that is directly affecting them. I'm just being scared by what's happening. And so when you watch those back and forth, it really, you really start to think, so is he shining? Like, that's what I think. I think Jack was accidentally shining into Grady, and that's where he just lost himself in that, and he lost himself in the hotel. So I don't know. What do you think about the last shot? And what do you think about
It's one of those things where the easiest thing would say, he's a ghost.
That's too easy.
I know, but it's like, every time I watch it, I just don't even have an answer. I just go, I still don't know what to think, and that's the point. It's just kind of this weird,
Would that argument be he's a ghost and he's constantly reliving how he killed his family?
Or something. I don't know how to interpret it. Because it's him in the picture.
It is him. It's, yeah. But, I mean, that...
I just don't. I'm not sure how to interpret it. If you're supposed to even interpret it farther than that, I don't know.
Yeah. So that's I think I said like this episode. I love shit that's open to interpretation. I love when you can find different meanings in that. It's such a fun thing to talk about. And this movie is a perfect example of that.
That's true.
Okay, well, on that note, do you guys have anything else you want to add about The Shining?
I think I covered all the bases.
I have one more thing. Back to the sound design. That was also one thing that really annoyed me about the movie, because all the talking is like this, and they're all talking real quiet, and you can't really hear them, so you turn the TV up really loud, and then loud noises! I get that's probably intentional.
That's
but
not just The Shining. I have a massive bone to pick with a lot of movies nowadays. That I feel like movies and shows, when you watch it on your home screen, I don't know if they don't mix it for like home.
They probably mix it for like surround sound.
That's what I think. They mix it for surround sound or for the theaters. They don't change it because I usually will watch it over streaming. I did not watch this over streaming, and so maybe that's why it wasn't that bad. But like, I noticed a lot of streaming stuff. It's a lot of quiet, a lot of whispering, and then the music is this. I'm just like, stop making your.
I get
stop
that.
that.
I get that with the Lord of the Rings trilogy too.
Mm-hmm.
All the talking is down here like. Bah.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Because he's literally.
I know Nolan is bad.
And then just the music is so loud. But Christopher Nolan's movies are very loud.
That's all.
Yes,
Nolan
they
stuff.
are.
Yeah.
It's a good thing there was hardly any talking in Dunkirk.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that sums up our conversation on The Shining. If you like this episode, Shining, and you want to watch more of what we got going on, Jared, where can the good people follow us online?
You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And listen to us at Apple, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, ring our bell, and rate and like us on all those, or great comment, whatever you say, on all those other ones.
It bumps up our numbers. It makes us look good.
And check out our groovy website.
Absolutely. So thank you for watching today's episode. If you want to stay up to date with what we're watching next, it's going to be my 8th favorite pick of all time, which I believe is Midsummer?
Midsummer, 2019.
Yeah. Going on a horror movie. So watch that before you tune in next week. And until then, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Red rum.
Red rum.